While ordinary Russians deal with poverty and war, one woman enjoys unrivaled luxury beyond the walls of the Kremlin. She is kept as a governmental secret, never seen and never acknowledged. Insiders, however, think she is Vladimir Putin's secret wife and has more than simply a connection to power. Her lifestyle as a millionaire is comparable to that of royalty. Palaces, private planes, and wardrobes brimming with designer exclusives. Today, we're revealing Alina Kabaeva's wealthy lifestyle, one of the most lavish and exclusive lives on the planet, with residences and assets valued at least $81.85 million. Alina Kabaeva maintains a billionaire lifestyle that is probably subsidized by Putin's enormous secret wealth and oligarch favor. However, despite its startling appearance, this number is only the tip of the iceberg that delves far into the murky seas of Russian oligarch wealth and state-run luxury. We must first comprehend the size of the wealth that purportedly underpins Kabaeva's lifestyle in order to appreciate its scope. Putin's alleged wealth, which some analysts have put as high as $200 billion, is hidden away in a world of offshore accounts, devoted oligarchs, and shell corporations. This wealth, which has been amassed over decades of political influence and calculated partnerships, is said to move through a well-planned network that conceals its true ownership and provides funds for an incomprehensible lifestyle. Kabaeva owns a property empire worth at least $81.85 million, which includes 2 mansions, a number of apartments in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and land in Sochi worth billions of rubles. These properties aren't just any real estate though. They are among the most prestigious in Russia, having been handpicked and frequently obtained through shady means that conceal their genuine ownership. Kabaeva reportedly enjoys using what has been called Russia's largest property in Moscow, a penthouse that she has had since 2011. She has had access to this property for more than 10 years, according to a 2023 OCCRP report. This is more than just a spot for her to lay her head. It's a statement piece that represents her standing in Russia's upper class. According to a 2016 Reuters investigation, a businessman connected to the president gave properties to women who were associated with Putin, including Kabaeva's family. The way of living made possible by tremendous wealth is truly remarkable. According to sources, Kabaeva was residing with her children in a secluded and secure chalet close to Lugano, Switzerland, during Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine, while Ukrainian families fled their homes and Russian moms cried for their sons. The ultra-wealthy in Russia find refuge in Lugano, a city renowned for its low taxes, financial secrecy, and lavish lifestyle. Here, discretion is as easily acquired as luxury products. Beyond simply being comfortable, this Swiss way of life serves as a clear example of the gap between the terrible reality that many Russians confront and the country's governing class. Russian military were purportedly shelling Ukrainian cities, including a maternity facility in Mariupol, while Kabaeva was supposedly taking in the tranquil lakeside scene of Lugano. This contrast emphasizes the story of Kabaeva's privileged, remote existence, where she is totally shielded from the repercussions of the regime's policies. She has unrestricted access to luxury. She continues to live a luxury lifestyle in spite of Western sanctions that have been in place since 2022, as seen by her presence in a 2,960 Dior dress. For Kabaeva, this one piece of clothing is just another day's wardrobe option, even though it costs more than many Russians make in a month. Her revenue streams reveal a pattern of state assistance disguising itself as respectable commercial endeavors. Her most recent known pay was approximately £8 million, 0 pence, annually from the pro-Kremlin media behemoth National Media Group. However, that pay is only one part of a river of riches that runs in many different routes. According to reports, Taxpayer funds are used to support her lifestyle, which includes presents from Putin's pals, including oligarchs who benefit from government contracts, and residences constructed on state property. An excellent illustration of how public funds are reallocated to assist her endeavors is the Gymnastics Academy in Sochi. Behind the glitz, the gold, and those jaw-dropping Hermes handbags, there's a story no one was supposed to tell. And it all starts with one name, Alena Kabaeva. To the outside world, she's a patriotic icon, a celebrated athlete, a woman fronting respectable projects, sports centers, foundations, you name it. But scratch beneath that polished surface, and the real picture starts to show. Those clean-cut projects, yeah, they're not as clean as they look. They're funded by Gazprom, Russia's state-run energy behemoth that basically prints money off the country's natural resources. What does that mean? It means the wealth of the Russian people is being redirected, disguised as private investment, and funneled straight into Kabaeva's world. Now, let's talk lifestyle. Kabaeva isn't just rich, she lives like money was made just for her. We're talking limited edition watches, rare diamonds, vintage Hermes bags that would make collectors drool. But here's the twist. It's not just spending for fun. These are strategic purchases. Wealthy women like her don't just shop, they invest. In luxury, jewelry becomes a savings account, purses become portfolios. But while the outfits sparkle, so do the headlines, and not in a good way. After Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, the world came knocking. Sanctions hit her from every direction. Why? Because her ties to Putin and her role in helping push Kremlin propaganda turned her from celebrity to international target overnight. And yet, nothing stopped. Her lifestyle kept gliding on untouched. How? Simple. She's not just living off wealth. She's protected by a maze of hidden bank accounts, offshore entities, shadow real estate deals, and state-funded safety nets. Even her grandma, Anna Zatseplina, somehow ended up owning luxury properties worth millions. Random luck? Come on. It's a pattern, a quiet flow of wealth carefully handed out to insiders. People who stay loyal, keep secrets, and never ask questions. Now here's where it goes full spy movie. The hidden relationship between Kabaeva and Vladimir Putin. Yes, Putin. This isn't a rumor cooked up by tabloids. This is a story so dangerous, so tightly guarded that media outlets have been shut down for even whispering about it. It all exploded back in 2008 when a bold Russian tabloid called Moskovsky Korrespondent dropped a bombshell. Putin, still married at the time, was reportedly engaged to Kabaeva, a woman decades younger. The Kremlin's response? Swift and brutal. Within days, the newspaper was shut down, officially for financial issues, but everyone knew the truth. They poked the bear. Hard, even Putin himself jumped into damage control, calling the rumors erotic fantasies during a press conference, with Italy's prime minister sitting beside him. Yeah, he went that far, but instead of calming things down, the extreme denial just added fuel to the fire, because in a country where powerful men flaunt their affairs, this level of secrecy? It screams something big was being hidden. And here's the real twist. The children, several investigative reports claim Kabaeva and Putin share at least 2 sons together. One allegedly born in Switzerland at the Ultrapermat Santana maternity clinic in 2015. The other, born in Moscow in 2019, and named after Putin himself, Vladimir Putin Jr. Their lives? Completely off the grid. No photos, no documents, no birthdays. Their ghosts in plain sight, protected by a security bubble so intense it borders on paranoia. Why all the secrecy? Because this isn't just a relationship. It's the construction of a hidden dynasty. a private family created in the shadows, while the public sees nothing but silence and stage smiles. What are we really looking at here? Not just love, not just power. This is a full-blown geopolitical thriller playing out in real life, where luxury becomes camouflage, truth is silenced, and the system protects those closest to the crown. We may never get all the details, but one thing is crystal clear. When you follow the money, the cover-ups, and the media blackouts, a story that emerges is bigger than anyone expected. And trust me, it's not over. If you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this secret family really exists? Or is it all just an elaborate cover-up? Let's hear what you think. Their decision to have their first child in Switzerland. That wasn't some casual pick on a map. It was deliberate. It was strategic. It was about one thing: total control. Switzerland isn't just famous for chocolate and neutrality. It's the go-to destination for the ultra-elite who want two things: medical perfection and absolute privacy. It's where Russian oligarchs go when they need to vanish from public view but still get world-class treatment. And that's exactly what Putin and Kabeva did. Now, let's talk about the lives of these children, if you can even call it a life. They don't go to regular schools. They don't go on field trips. They don't even casually play with other kids. Instead, they live in near-total isolation on Putin's heavily guarded Valdai estate, raised not by their parents but by a carefully curated team of governesses, nannies, and Kremlin Federal Guard officers. It's a fortress dressed up as a home, and inside it are the most protected children in Russia. And that protection, it's next level. According to the Dossier Center, these kids were never entered into normal Russian databases. They don't even have standard ID cards. Instead, they're given the same kind of identification typically reserved for undercover agents. That's right. From birth, they were treated like state secrets, spy-level secrecy. For toddlers, their lives are a masterclass in controlled existence. Private jets, chauffeured cars, exclusive yachts. No public schools, no play dates, no birthday parties unless every person in the room has been vetted top to bottom. Even close relatives need clearance to interact with them. These aren't just rich kids, these are ghost children, living, breathing mysteries created by one of the most powerful men on earth. And then there's the way Putin reportedly sees them. Or sources claim that Kabaeva was once seen behind a thick pane of tinted glass, silently watching as her sons played hockey with their father. Not on a public rink, not even in a private arena, in what should have been a safe, intimate family moment, and yet she couldn't even step forward. Imagine that, a mother watching her children play from behind smoked glass, because even her presence, even a glance, could expose everything. But this story doesn't stop at rumors and anonymous sources. It has receipts. After Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, Kabaeva found herself in the crosshairs of global governments. Sanctions started rolling in. And they weren't based on gossip. They were built on intelligence. In August 2022, the US Treasury officially sanctioned her, citing not just her media empire, but her close relationship with Vladimir Putin. Now, that phrase might sound tame, but in diplomatic terms, it's explosive. That's not just saying she's connected, it's saying she's important. The UK hit her with sanctions too, and their then Foreign Secretary Liz Truss went even further, flat out calling her a member of Putin's inner circle. The EU followed suit. Travel bans, asset freezes, public confirmation that Kabaeva's relationship with Putin wasn't just real, it was powerful enough to be considered a threat. And then, in 2025, something cracked. For the first time ever, images of one of Putin and Kabaeva's alleged sons surfaced online, specifically of Ivan, reportedly 10 years old at the time. The resemblance, unmistakable. Sources said he looked eerily like a young Vladimir Putin. during his Soviet days. These weren't just blurry photos taken from a distance. They were clear, intimate, like something snapped during a quiet family moment. And the fact that they landed in the hands of an anti-Kremlin telegram group? Yeah, that raises serious questions. Was this a major breach in security? Or was it a warning shot? A deliberate leak by someone with access to Putin's innermost world? Either way, the impact was the same. The veil started to lift, and it revealed a child living in solitude, with no peers, no normal experiences, and no real connection to the outside world, just guards and silence. The emotional weight of all this gets even heavier when you compare it to Putin's official family history. From 1983 to 2014, he was married to Lyudmila Putina. Together, they had 2 daughters, both of whom have also lived almost entirely off the grid, rarely seen, rarely mentioned, but the lengths taken to hide his alleged relationship with Kabaeva and their children, that secrecy makes everything else look like child's play. This isn't just a private life. It's a completely engineered existence, one where wealth, politics, and power come together to build a life that no one outside the Kremlin can touch. So here's the real question. If this is how far Putin will go to hide this part of his life, what else is hidden behind the curtain? If this story grabbed your attention, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives like this one and hit the comments. Do you believe these children are real? Was that leaked photo a mistake or a message? We're just scratching the surface. Stay tuned. She's slowly reappearing in public, making waves in Russia's sports world and stirring headlines globally. After years of denial, deflection, and blackout-level secrecy, this sudden re-emergence could mean one of 2 things. Either the Kremlin is feeling confident enough to stop hiding her, or they believe the secret is now so protected it doesn't matter anymore. But make no mistake, this relationship has already shaped domestic politics and global policy. And right at the center of it all, a woman who, despite being one of the most mysterious figures in global power circles, has quietly held on to enormous influence. So, how did a former Olympic gymnast become one of the most sanctioned women on Earth? Let's connect the dots. Kabaeva isn't just Putin's rumored partner. She's also, allegedly, a shadow architect of the modern Russian propaganda machine. Since 2014, she's chaired the National Media Group, one of the biggest media empires in Russia. Think Channel 1, REN-TV, Izvestia. All the voices that shape what Russians see, hear, and believe. This isn't a symbolic title. She's not a figurehead. Under her leadership, these networks have pumped out highly controlled state-aligned narratives, especially when it comes to the war in Ukraine, Western sanctions, and Putin's portrayal as a global strongman. And here's the kicker. She had 0 prior experience in media. None. But in Putin's Russia, proximity to power trumps credentials. She didn't climb the ladder, she was dropped at the top. That tells you everything about how influence really works in today's Kremlin. It's not about qualifications. It's about who's in the room. And Kabaeva? She's been in the room for a long time. But her grip on power started long before her media empire. Between 2007 and 2014, she served as a State Duma deputy under the ruling United Russia Party, representing Nizhnekolomsk. She backed controversial legislation, like laws limiting the adoption of Russian orphans by foreigners, which aligned perfectly with Putin's growing nationalist, isolationist playbook. Even after stepping away from formal government roles, she stayed plugged in. As a member of the Public Chamber of Russia since 2005, Kabaeva has quietly remained close to key political figures, influencing decisions without ever needing a podium or a press conference. And it doesn't stop at politics or media. Her influence runs deep in Russian sports too. She heads the Nebesnaya Grazia, or Sky Grace Academy, a ritzy gymnastics institution with jaw-dropping autonomy. It can write its own competition rules, hand out titles, operate like a mini-state within the Russian athletic world. That's not just prestige, that's power. And in Russia, where sport and nationalism walk hand in hand, that kind of control means something. This level of influence has triggered something we've never really seen before, a global coordinated response. Initially, the US reportedly hesitated to sanction Kabeva. According to the Wall Street Journal, there were fears it would provoke Putin. That hesitation speaks volumes. When governments worry about hurting a leader's partner's feelings, that's not gossip, that's strategy. But even with that fear, the US eventually pulled the trigger. In August 2022, the Treasury Department sanctioned Kabeva, not for who she's rumored to be to Putin, but for what she does. They cited her role in spreading Kremlin disinformation through the national media group. This wasn't personal, this was about power. The US made it clear. In the information war, Kabeva isn't just a background player, she's a battlefield. The UK followed suit. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss called her part of Putin's inner circle. The EU slammed her with asset freezes and travel bans, acknowledging her intimate personal and political ties to the Kremlin. That's not just consensus, that's confirmation. And then, in 2025, the dam started to crack again. Photos surfaced online of Ivan, allegedly one of Putin and Kavea's sons, around 10 years old. The resemblance to a young Soviet-era Putin, uncanny. These weren't paparazzi shots. They looked private, intimate, personal. They appeared on an anti-Kremlin Telegram channel. And that raises the question, was this a security failure? Or was it an intentional leak, a message, a threat? Because if someone inside the Kremlin is bold enough to drop a photo of one of Putin's hidden heirs, something is shifting. And maybe, just maybe, the walls around this secret empire are starting to weaken. So now we ask, what happens when the world starts seeing the faces that have been hidden for so long? What kind of pressure does that put on a regime built on silence, denial, and shadows? Because this isn't just about a gymnast or a love affair. This is about a woman who's quietly become a power broker, who controls stories, sculpts perception, and operates just inches from one of the most feared men on the planet. So, the next time someone says Alina Kabeva is just a former athlete, you'll know better. This deep dive blew your mind. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell, because the stories we uncover here, they're just getting started. And let's hear it in the comments. Is Kabeva really just an insider? Or is she the silent queen behind the Russian throne? So, what happens when a former Olympic gymnast becomes one of the most politically significant and internationally sanctioned women on earth? You get Alina Kabeva. But this isn't just about one woman's rise to power. This is about soft power weaponized, influence without a title, and a new kind of global threat, one that hides behind smiles, sports festivals, and billion-ruble philanthropy. Because behind the patriotic ribbons and rhythmic gymnastics lies something far more calculated. Let's start with the big picture. When the US Treasury sanctioned Kabeva in 2022, it wasn't just about her rumored ties to Putin. It was about something far more serious: information warfare. The Treasury made it crystal clear. In today's world, propaganda is power, and spreading it is a punishable offense. The European Union echoed that message loud and clear. Sanctions, travel bans, frozen assets. But what stood out? The reason. Not crimes, not corruption, personal proximity. The EU had one goal: to signal that being close to Putin, even unofficially, is enough to make you a threat. Then came Australia. Then Canada. One by one, countries lined up to shut her out. This wasn't a scattered response. This was coordinated. Intelligence agencies were clearly comparing notes, and they all came to the same conclusion. Kabeva isn't just someone who knows Putin. She's someone who helps him hold the system together. And here's the kicker. Even as her name was blacklisted across the globe, her power only grew. Kabaeva didn't vanish. She didn't retreat from the spotlight. She did the exact opposite. In 2022, while the world tried to freeze her out, she launched the Nebesnaya Gracia Association with special regulatory powers. That's right. Her organization can bend the rules, set its own guidelines, bypass standard oversight. And the timing? That was no accident. This was a flex, a statement, a reminder to the world. She's still in control at home, no matter what foreign powers say. Then, in April 2025, she hosted the Alina 2025 Children's Festival, a gymnastics event wrapped in patriotism and dripping with symbolism. It wasn't just about kids flipping across the floor. It was about rewriting history, aligning athletic success with the myth of the Great Patriotic War, and feeding the next generation a steady diet of nationalism. Served with glitter and applause, that's not just influence, that's indoctrination. This is how modern soft power works. It's not tanks and speeches, it's theme songs, sports programming, and sanitized hero worship. Through these innocent events, Kaba is helping reframe the national identity. One child, one medal, one televised performance at a time. But she's not doing this without resistance behind the scenes. There's been tension. Her former coach, Irina Viner, a legend in Russian gymnastics, actually stepped down from her post in 2024 after public disagreements over rule changes and judging. That's not just sports drama. That's a power shift. Think about it. How many people can force the resignation of the country's top gymnastics figure? Kabaeva's influence is so deep, so entrenched, that even the old guard can't stop her. And her reach doesn't stop at the gym globally. There's growing pressure to strip her of her Olympic medals. Nothing's happened yet, but the fact that those conversations are even happening tells you everything. Her political actions have started to stain her athletic legacy. And outside of official channels, the outrage is massive. Over 50,000 people signed a Change LS petition in 2022 demanding she be deported from Switzerland. Some even compared her to Eva Braun, a brutal, uncomfortable comparison, accusing her of profiting from a regime built on control, fear, and censorship. And yet, she remains untouchable. Why? Because she's playing a different game. Why? Sanctions go after bank accounts and border access. Kabaeva's power lives in the gray zone, in private institutions, media control, and cultural manipulation. Her Sky Grace Academy is a perfect example. On the surface, it's a school for gymnasts. In reality, it's a political vehicle, funded with nearly 2 billion rubles from Gazprom, a state company. Public money, private control, and zero accountability. That's not charity. That's state-backed influence laundering. What we're seeing here isn't just about a woman living large. It's about how 21st century power works, through connections, not positions, through media, not speeches, through culture, not commands. And that's what makes Alina Kabaeva one of the most dangerous women in the world right now. Because whether or not she's Putin's secret wife, she is something more dangerous, a walking blueprint for modern authoritarian influence. She doesn't need to hold office. She doesn't need a military rank. She influences what people believe, how they feel, and how they interpret reality. And she does it all while staying just out of reach. So next time you see a smiling gymnast waving a Russian flag on TV, ask yourself, what's really going on behind that image? That's it for this deep dive. If you're still watching, you know this story is bigger than one woman. It's about the machinery of power itself. Hit that subscribe button, tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming next, and leave a comment below. Do you think Kabaeva's influence is unstoppable? Or is her time finally running out? We're watching closely. You should be too.